evening and welcome to another half hour of gratuitous abuse, thinly disguised as in-depth political satire. In the news this week, assured of victory as party leader, John Smith calls a top-level conference for all the captains of industry who support Labour. As a reward for his contribution to party unity, Dennis Healey presents Ken Livingstone with a gobstopper. Meanwhile, to escape journalists investigating new revelations into his private life, Major Ronald Ferguson finds a novel way of getting to the Wigmore Club. On Ian Hislop's team this week, ordinarily a stand-up comedian, but tonight she's kindly agreed to remain seated. Actress, writer, raconteur, the list ends there. Donna MacPhail. And with Paul Merton, social issues, religious problems, political crises. She seems to cause trouble wherever she goes. Joan Bakewell. So let's press on, as Claire Rayner would say, with Act 1, Scene 1. Set the tone for the evening with our first round, in which we show each of our combatants one piece of footage from the week's news. Ian and Donna reveal the source.
We'll just have to wing this one.
Betty, Pans people. Vote Hitler.
It's something to do with Mrs. Boothroyd.
Well done. 1 point for being able to read.
She's become speaker.
She has.
And she used to be a tiller girl.
They
like
were
a
never
porn
allowed
actress.
to raise their legs above waist height.
Oh, that's an old wives' tale. A few gins inside them to be surprised what they do.
Yes, it's Betty Boothroyd, former tiller girl and first female Speaker of the House of Commons. MPs said they were delighted they were going to be disciplined by a former chorus girl. Normally they have to pay £50 for that. Paul and Joan, what do we have here?
Oh, lorries?
Lots of lorries.
Lots of lorries.
Not moving.
Idle, German.
Ah, German language.
German language.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
the train's not running on time here.
Isn't that the man they sort of thawed out of an iceberg? Because he'd been dead for 400 years and they revived him and he sort of go, what's a lorry? He's sort of like very confused.
Nobody's moving in Germany.
No one is
There's
moving
a strike in Germany and that man was born in 1368.
You can have the points for the
You
no
get a
strike
clue
in
again, I
Germany.
notice. Wir streiken.
No, I didn't do German, you see. I did
You did
metalwork.
woodwork,
No, I did metalwork.
Metalwork.
Yeah.
So what did you think it meant then?
Centre punch.
Yes, it all begins to make sense. It's Western Germany grinding to a halt as a result of an all-out one-day strike, or an aller aus ein Tag kein Arbeit für die Leute, die in der Länder wohnen, geschichtliche Wildnis strike. The problems besetting Germany have led to a wave of sympathy and concern amongst almost no one, really. In keeping with their reputation, those striking Germans have gone about their work with ruthless inefficiency and failed to turn up in the morning bang on time. Ian and Donna, make head or tail of this, if you will.
That's Los Angeles. That's McDonald's. Apparently there was the Big Bang and they found ripples at the edge of the universe. And that proves that, it's all in the papers, I don't know. The chap in the wheelchair, Spielberg, you know.
Yes, I think most of it was in there. The images of radiation show how the cosmos might end in a fiery reversal of the Big Bang, known as the Big Crunch, during which all matter in the universe collapses back in on itself. I think Oliver Reed knows the feeling. Paul and Joan, what's this Disney-esque scenario?
This was the man who had sex with a dolphin. And
Which is the dolphin?
they've given birth to sort of half man, half dolphin. There it is.
The dolphin that was missing.
Yes.
How do they know it's the same?
It's Freddie the dolphin. Well, apparently they asked him a few simple
Perhaps they found
questions.
a different...
Like, which way would you have voted if you'd been around in the election?
It's a faintly familiar story. Yes, it's the heartwarming story of a boy and his dolphin. There may be civil war in Afghanistan and hundreds of people being killed in Yugoslavia, but Freddie the dolphin is still alive. Freddie became a bit of a star in his native Northumbria, but was feared dead earlier in the week. Newspapermen became excited when photographs of a 65-stone mammal splashing around in the water started coming through, but they were later found to have originated from a holiday resort in Thailand. The way in which Freddie gave youngsters...
I was sure that was going to be a Robert Maxwell joke.
Well, they could have,
No,
they
he's
would have
dead,
done
you
well.
see. That would have been bad taste.
Perhaps he's in Thailand.
He could be. Maybe he's with
Perhaps
her.
he is Thailand.
The way in which Freddie gave youngsters rides round the bay caused some consternation, but zoologists explained that all male dolphins like to drag youngsters around while they hold on to its genitals. Even though Bill Wyman was a dolphin, but there we are. Last year, Freddie was suspected of being badly wounded by the propellers of a police launch. Northumbria police explained that he'd accidentally swum out of a top-floor window. Which dumps us unceremoniously at the end of round one, and the state of play is such that both teams have a frugal but sufficient 4. With our headlines round, one each for you to initially spot and then elaborate upon, beginning with yours, Paul. Black Horse rides in.
This is the, what are they called? Lloyd's Bank, aren't they? They want to take over the Midlands Bank.
There's another battle going on, or at least another takeover bid, for an extra point.
Shanghai Bank.
Very good. Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank.
It's just a little wooing is going on.
They're just worried
Jack
someone
everyone
else will
sells
get
it.
in there and lose money.
Lloyd's have just been a little bit coquettish, aren't
I
they?
think they are.
Not quite returning those phone calls as quickly as they should. Well, I'm busy on Saturday night, I really don't know. You'll have to phone me again later on.
Lloyds deny that it's a takeover, preferring to see it as a merger, which they say will be illustrated by the new name, putting the first part of their name, Lloyds, with the second part of the Midlands to create the brand new name, Lloyds Bank. Midland, however, are eager to retain their identity in the slogan, which they insist should be at the sign of the listening horse. For the logo, they've found a new animal combining the features of a horse and the sharp teeth and claws of a griffin. Joan, put us in the picture. This is just what girls have been waiting for. What's that?
For women.
Soft
No,
porn.
it's a soft porn magazine
porn.
aimed at it's aimed at creating sexual arousal in women without showing it in the men.
It's going to be a terrific flop, isn't it?
I've seen it.
Hang loose.
I've seen this magazine, actually. I didn't buy it. Obviously.
No, obviously.
I stole it. I stole it from a newsagent's and out of the back pocket of a nun. And it is actually very disappointing because there's nothing. You can just see it's just page after page of flaccid peni.
It's a word now, I think.
It is.
Just coined it.
Are men going to buy this magazine?
Well, I bought it for research purposes earlier in the year.
Yes.
It was called For Women, and I thought that would be interesting. It wasn't. It was about 25 blokes.
Yeah, it's a bit of a letdown.
I bought a copy of a magazine called Men Only the other day, and there was no men in it at all. Old gag, Chiswick Empire, 1954.
It was nice to hear again. Welcome back. Features in this first edition include a guide to vibrators, a manual on oral sex, if that's not a contradiction in terms, and a middle-page spread
Tongues
of...
will wag.
There's also a parade of celebrity bottoms featuring rear views of Kevin Costner, Mel Gibson and Don Johnson, and a head and shoulders shot of Jeremy Beadle. Donna, who dialed 999 and said, "I've got the hots for a fireman"?
This is a very sad story about a woman who fancied firemen, and she actually was so desperate for a bit of a look at some firemen that she set fire to her neighbour's house.
It's incredible.
And
but it's true.
sadly, she was arrested before the firemen got underway, and she was being pulled away by the police, and she was saying, "Oh, what are they wearing? What are they wearing? Do they look like?"
Yes, I just hope she never falls in love with any radiation experts. Blow up Sizewell B because she likes their nice asbestos suits. Finally, Ian, is the wig held in contempt?
Oh, it's a very unfair story about whether television chat show hosts should wear wigs. No, it's not that at all.
Nothing to do with it.
This is about whether judges should wear wigs. And this headline seems to have missed the point. It's not the wigs that are held in contempt, it's the judges. They've decided they'll improve their image by taking their wigs off. And there are some other things they could try. Staying awake's good.
Yes, it's terribly unlikely.
And next time I appear before you, I love you all.
And it won't be long, I can tell you. It is indeed the legal profession which has suggested doing away with wigs and gowns for civil and commercial actions, but retaining them in order to preserve their anonymity for traditional rituals, like hanging around King's Cross at 2 in the morning. Which brings us to the end of this rather salacious round, and it looks very much as if Ian and Donna have a trifling 8, and Paul and Joan have reached the dizzy heights of 9. Round 2 is followed with rather reassuring inevitability by round 3, our connections round, in which each team is shown a bewilderingly simple montage of unconnected images which, together with a piece of music by a popular beat combo, all relate to a major news story of the week. Ian and Donna, what's all this all about?
Village people.
Jason Donovan.
Fergie celebrating leaving Andy, going on holiday for 50 weeks.
It's a quickie this year.
This is, in fact, her 38th holiday in 5 years. She had some people round last month to show them slides of her weekend at home. Rather bizarrely, she informed staff at her hotel that Johnny Bryan, the Texan accompanying her, was really Prince Edward. Staff even took to addressing him as if he was Prince. Oi, Baldy, your dinner's ready. Paul and Joan, another royal figure for you.
Oh, Kate A.D.
She's in Kensington, I think.
No, it's just Kensington or China, one of the two.
Oh, Kensington.
Yes.
One at the end of the film, another reporter that they've actually asked to stand in.
Jeremy Bowen.
Very good. You can have an extra point for that.
I think it's a very good negotiating ploy. You said we won't send Kate A.D. if you give us the 2 suspects. Get him back in no time.
Yes. Might even
I do
work.
love the hot pants. Don't you think they're terrific? She tends to wear them in Islamic countries, just to sort of fit in.
It is indeed Kate A.D. After Colonel Gaddafi's government went down on bended knees to the BBC to ask them to send her back, in their telex, the Libyans said that they were formally protesting the incomprehensive behaviour of Miss Katz A.D., with whom we suffer a lot. All our attempts to obtain a solution were gone with wind. On think and stope, Kate A.D. Each time she is in Libya, she is posing us more and more troubles, as if we have nothing to do except Kate A.D. P.S. Do you know any typists looking for a job? Colonel Gaddafi decided to put Miss A.D. under the charge of a burly minder who found the job so taxing that he fainted. Interviewed on regaining consciousness, he said, "If you asked me to choose Kate A.D. or prison, I would not hesitate to choose prison. I felt like an ant." And so we gaily somersault into our thunderously popular archive round. One piece of ancient history per team, plucked from the mouldering ruins of the BBC vaults. Ian and Donna, a TV reporter for you, or at least he was then.
Mr. Chambers?
Never mind, Mr. Chambers.
Are you Mr. Chambers?
Albert Chambers himself was notably less forthcoming and less articulate.
Are you a member of the British movement?
No, I'm not.
Was it Kate Adie?
It was a voice that gave
Without
you
the pearly
that hint.
earrings.
It's quite interesting. It's the British movement, and it looks terrifically like Gary Bushell. But he wouldn't be hanging around with a bunch of fascists. So, obviously not him.
Clearly.
The reporter, I think that voice is Brian Gould.
Ah, that's what we were going to say.
Well, let's see how that fracas developed.
Do yourself a... That camera don't mean a thing to me.
What?
Understand?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
At the time, Gould was trying to make his name as a tough guy reporter. In fact, he was offered Roger Cook's job, but he didn't have the stomach for it. He now describes himself as Labour's radical alternative to winning. Paul and Joan, an even stranger debut performance for you. Who's this?
It's Prince Charles, isn't it?
And it's
I
not
don't- I
funny,
don't-
so it
it's
must be
not-
footlights.
It must be royal. Royals? I think it's more likely to be Prince Edward.
No, I think it's Prince. You've got a glimpse of ear.
There's a hint of bald patch.
Yes, that's true.
All right, well, let's blow his cover. Yes. Yes, the future King of the United Kingdom and Commonwealth, writhing around on the floor emitting meaningless groaning noises. But then he is related to George III. I'm not sure if it's out on video yet, but let's hope not. All of which brings us neatly to the climax of that round, at which high point I can tell you that, well, it's neck and neck. Paul and Joan have 13, and Ian and Donna have a splendid 13. And so, all hail round 5, our odd one out round, in which each of our circle is confronted with a gang of 4, 3 of whom are mysteriously linked, but which one is the David Owen? Paul, you get to start with Esther Ranson, Michael Parkinson, Hanu Mikola, former world champion rally driver, obviously, and a rhino.
Well, the rhino's killed for it is sought after its horn.
Michael Parkinson
Yes, sorry,
is not.
Esther... the other Parkinson.
The voice of experience. There, that sounds
Esther
like-
Ranson for her ivory.
Well, I'll tell you, the answer is that Esther Ranson, Michael Parkinson and Hanu Mikola are all rhinoceroses. And celebrities, whereas the rhino is just a rhinoceros. This is... we do have
We have some of that one.
We do have proof. This is Hanu Mikola, who can be found at Knowlesy Safari Park. This is Michael Parkinson, looking well. And this is Esther Ranson. Rather flattering, I thought. Esther shares a cage with her lover, Parky, at Chester Zoo, where she lives on a diet of beetroots and turnips, but of course only if they amusingly resemble male genitalia. Joan, here's your incongruous bunch. Michael Jackson, Trisha Howard, Paddy Ashdown's Fatal Attraction, Belinda Carlisle, and Red Ken.
Newts. Perhaps newts have got something
Yes,
to do with
newts
it.
have something to do with it.
Newts have something to do with it. Ken likes newts.
So we've
I hope
heard.
you're going to prove that.
Michael Jackson likes all sorts of strange
Good.
animals. Perhaps Trisha Howard likes Paddy Ashdown and he's not a newt?
Well, it's a very
It's a
polite way of
bonkers
putting
question, isn't it? Michael Jackson's just mad, we know that. She slept with Paddy Ashdown.
Belinda
Ken wants to be leader of the Labour Party.
An excellent guess, but I can't give you any points, I'm afraid. I will give you 1 point, because you were virtually there. It's Trisha Howard, as all the others have, or have had, exotic pets. She's never had an exotic pet, unless you...
She's been an exotic pet.
Yes. Yes, I suppose if you count trouser snakes, you might do, but we don't, obviously. Right, Donna, 4 more lovelies for you. Princess Margaret, Kate Adie,
Smashing.
Sid
Don't
Vicious,
you love her?
and Dracula.
Right, OK. Drugs, then, isn't it? Because substances. Princess
I've no
Margaret,
idea what you mean.
Princess Margaret's sozzled old bag. Sorry, excuse me,
No, please.
member of the royal family.
Yes.
Sid Vicious dead from drugs. Dracula lives off blood or something, and Kate Adie isn't on drugs, but she should have some. Is that it?
It's good enough for a point, but...
We've all slept with that woman behind Princess Margaret. That's Sissy Fairfax, we all know her. The Palace Bicycle, she's known as.
All three of them don't want to be interviewed by Kate Adie.
I'll give you a point, Donna, because you did actually mention blood, and that is that's what lies behind it. It's Dracula, as all the others have fallen victim to hepatitis at some time, whereas Dracula never contracted any blood disease, rather surprisingly, in view of his diet. Hepatitis badly affected Princess Margaret's liver. Surprised she still got one. Sid Vicious only knew he had hepatitis when he felt slightly iller than normal. That's at death's door for anyone else who's watching. And Kate Adie returned from the Gulf with not only hepatitis, but 11 other notifiable diseases. The diseases were begging to be cured of her. And finally, Ian, Spot the Road. Guinness crook Ernest Saunders, Roger Seelig, his co-defendant, Mr. Justice Henry, and Jesus of Nazareth.
Well, which of them isn't the Son of God?
I'm not going to say the judge isn't, just in case I've got that one wrong. This is a resurrection question. Ernest Saunders came back from near death to get out of prison early. Roger Seelig was terrifically ill during his trial, so he couldn't go to jail. It's a being let off, isn't it?
Yes, but linked with illness.
Who've made miraculous recoveries from illness.
Absolutely right, yes. That is
I mean, Christ raised people from the dead.
Well, he died. You can't be more miraculous than that.
No, he did.
That's a very serious illness, isn't it?
Quite a clever recovery.
Yes.
Yes, it was
That's not going to bed with 2 Anadin when you die. Leave the room warm but well ventilated. Roll the rock away from the front door. Surprise your friends 3 days later.
It's Mr. Justice Henry, as he's the only one not to have made a miraculous recovery, in fact. Saunders, who was supposed to be suffering from permanent senile dementia, within weeks was back in business as a consultant and delivering lectures on fiscal law. And Roger Seelig, who's now swanning around northern France in a red Porsche, was described by Mr. Justice Henry as a man at the end of his health, bewildered at his loss of control and his inability to think straight.
They don't notice in the city.
I think he must have mixed up his notes with the doctor's report on himself. All of which brings us to the end of that penultimate round, and regrettably for them, Paul and Joan have a painfully insecure 14, and Ian and Donna have a virtually smug 16. And so, magically, we arrive at the onset of our missing words round. Each team is subjected to a set of headlines with 1 or 2 words absent. Their simple but rarely accomplished task is to guess the missing word or propose a better one. The team in the descendant gets to go first, which patently is Paul and Joan. So, eyes down. Time runs out for Clinton to catch what?
Jason Donovan at another place.
Waverers is in fact a rather difficult
Well,
answer.
lastly, the waivers. It's a very nasty sort of disease. It's a bit like shingles, isn't it?
No, it's not. No,
No, I'm glad I've said that, though.
Gorbachev joins what?
Moody Blues.
Yes,
Keyboards.
Or it could be dots for a living.
Amusing Birthmark Club.
Not as far as I'm aware. Jet set is in fact the answer. Next, MPs learn the first house rule: find a what and a what?
Find a woman and an opportunity. Desk.
A pair,
Desk,
isn't it?
very good. I'll give you 1 for desk.
Desk and a pair?
Desk and a telephone is in fact the right answer. Next,
That's
only...
not difficult.
Only what is holding us back, says Confident Lamont.
Record unemployment, record bankruptcies, and a demoralised workforce.
I thought this was only Norman Lamont is holding us back.
Lack of confidence?
It's Germany, isn't it?
It is Germany, well done.
This is
And
wonderful.
lastly, Labour contenders in frantic hunt for what?
Votes, it must be.
It is votes, well done.
John Smith masks. The only way any of them are going to win.
Right,
Didn't do well.
Ian and Donna, here's your missing words. Gummer.
Tosser.
If I could just clear that for Mr. Gummer's lawyers, Donna means that he takes part in these welly throwing competitions in the country.
Neither of those. Bigot is in fact the answer. A bigot and proud of it.
Right then.
Not that far off. Beijing lays claim to what?
Milton Keynes.
And we've agreed we're going to hand it over.
The entire Mongol region is in fact the answer.
Entire Mongol region.
Next, Boothroyd beats Brooke with what?
Rubber
Black
mace.
pudding.
Black pudding?
Yes.
Tory votes?
Yes, I'll give you 1 for Tory seats. Help of 74 Tories. Next, the Kinnocks consider a move where?
Disneyland?
Might just as well.
This up market, that is.
Upmarket is absolutely right. And
How are
lastly,
they going to do that?
we'll never know. Mystery Baldy shares Fergie's what?
Underarm hair.
Is not the right answer, I'm happy to say.
Is it
Holiday.
orgasms?
If that had been right, you would have drawn level, you know, but...
Oh, well, no, it's misery.
It's in fact paradise, isn't it? The answer. Got it. Which expert display of straw clutching brings us to the conclusion of that concluding round. And a look at the scarlet numerals tells us that this week's underachievers are Paul and Joan with 18, and this week's child prodigies are Ian and Donna with 20.
It's not important who wins. It's not important who wins. Except for Paul.
On that delightful note, we say thank you to our guests Ian Hislop and Donna MacPhail, Paul Merton and Joan Bakewell. And I leave you with news that athletics chiefs have questioned the wisdom of allowing Swedes to organise the first ever Stockholm Marathon. At the end of an unsuccessful season, Arsenal captain Tony Adams denies that his drink problem has returned. And finally, more casualties in the showbiz world. After the BBC axes Russ Abbott, Basil Brush finds out his contract hasn't been renewed. Good night.